right, it's 5:07. I declare this real estate committee open. Mr. Clerk, item number 1.
Order that the city, pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, hereby accepts as a surplus gift from the Brockton Housing Authority, Lot 9, Newbury Street, map 53, Route 56. This is a parcel of land containing about 5,960 square feet and identified in book 32024, page 319. The mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate such gift.
All right.
Like I said, Mr. Tebow, Councilor Attorney Bridges, and Paula are here, invited.
Okay. This is Councilor Monahan's order. Councilor, do you want to start it off, or should I give it to Mr. Tebow?
Yeah, you can give it to Mr. Tom. Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Tebow, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This issue came to us being in the neighborhood, seeing the old Deeds building taken over and that parking shut down. There was some real problems with parking in the neighborhood. We were approached to see if we would be willing to consider sending the plot back to the city. I spoke to Councilor Monahan. He was in favor of it. Spoke to our board. They're in favor of it. We think it, given that Newbury Street there at the corner, everybody's parking up to the lights. It's a dangerous area. They need to get some more off-street parking, and we're in desperate need. So we're glad to work with the city on whatever the needs be.
All right. Mrs. Sidopoulos, anything from the parking authority?
I spoke to a couple of board members today, and they have some questions. I don't know if Mr. Tebow can answer them. If not, we can figure them out at a later date. Do you know if there's any conservation easements or anything that would prevent us to make that into a parking lot off the top of your head?
There's nothing known to the housing authority. I don't know if Attorney Bridges might have something. It was discussed, but there's nothing known that would prohibit the development there of a parking lot.
Right, and the rest we can discuss within the rest of the questions we can discuss within the city agency at that point. I'll bring it before the board in April.
All right, Solicitor Bridges, if you have anything you want to add to it, I'll pass you the floor.
Thank you very much. I think the only thing I'd like to add is that prior to the Brockton Housing Authority's ownership of the parcel, it was owned by the city of Brockton. So I believe it was taken in for tax taking in like the 90s, and then we conveyed it to the BHA. And then they graciously just gave it back to us, and the hope is for parking. To Paula's question, there is some type of water easement that runs along there, but it, to my understanding, would not impact the ability to create a parking lot there. I would suggest or recommend that the real estate committee move to recommend this favorably to the full council to accept the gift. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Any questions from any of the councilors present? Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Jack. Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I did not have an opportunity to drive by this lot. What's the current condition of the lot?
Would you like me to take it's a grass lot with a small tree on it, maybe a couple bushes.
Can I jump in, because we went today and took a few pictures and took a look at it? We saw about 3 taller trees, well-kept lot, grass maintained. I think one of the neighbors is upkeeping it. They even have a little bench there. That's what we saw today in our inspection when we drove by to see what kind of work it would need.
And what kind of work will it need to turn it into a parking lot? And do we have any idea of cost?
So we would need to do a curb cut on Newbury to gain access for drive lanes in between. From the visual that I estimated today, we're going to get 10 to 12 spots. We're going to have to deal with drainage. And that would go through DPW to see what they require. We're also going to need to mark off per city ordinance, green space and curbing. And the price to cut down the trees. And then obviously grade and pave. That's what we saw when I went today. I went this morning and then I went again this afternoon. And those are the things that came to mind by looking at the property today. I don't know what the cost will end up being.
Okay, and the expectation is that this is going to be used as a city lot, a permitted lot? Or is it would it be a pay lot, or what's the expectation for how the parking authority is going to use this area?
I'm going to defer to City Solicitor Bridges on this, if she knows any details. Megan?
Mr. Chair, Councilor Thompson. Hello? Can you hear me?
I only heard part of that. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I just said, Mr. Chairman, through you, if I may, to Councilor Thompson on the question of what is the reason that we're here or really talking about this is what.
Yeah.
So the property that is on the corner of Newbury and West Elm right now, it's a multi-unit building. I think there's 16 units in there. And those folks were parking across the street at the War Memorial Building. And it was causing quite an issue for both the people that work in veteran services as well as veterans who were attempting to get services. And the Brockton Parking Authority is not necessarily in control of the War Memorial lot. And Paula, Mark Picaro certainly worked with the city very well to educate parkers that they cannot park in the War Memorial Building. Because there's no on-street parking on this part of West Elm, the lot would, if the city council accepted the gift and then gave the parcel to the parking authority, it would be under their control and custody. But the idea would be that it would be contract permitted parking for that area of the city over on West Elm near the housing authority and that multifamily because there is not city parking over there.
Understood. I appreciate that explanation, Solicitor Bridges. I have no more questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there anyone else with any questions? Councilor Mendez.
Yes, once we have this acceptance as a gift finalized, what is the timeline that we're looking at in order to turn that into a parking lot? Is that something that we're going to do right away, immediately? So what will be the next step after this gets approved by the full city council?
The next step would be to transfer control to the Brockton Parking Authority. And then they would have to, as Paula mentioned, she'd bring it up at their next meeting. Even though they are a city board, they still would need to accept the asset under their control. And so that would be the next step. And then presumably, depending on the cost, going out to bid for the grading work and the asphalt, the curbing work. Assuming it's going to be more than $10,000, it would need to go out to bid. So the process, I would say, would take probably through the summer.
And from what we're hearing today from the parking authority and from you, is this is something that the city is willing and is looking forward to do, and it would be beneficial for the residents to have this additional extra parking space, which solve a whole lot of problems in that area.
My professional opinion in assessing this issue is that it would. There is no parking associated with this multifamily building. And so we do need to find a place for these people to park. The owner of the building has been very cooperative with the city in these discussions, in the need to provide his tenants a place to park. So yes, the city is desirous as moving forward, and it will help. The whole point is that will help the residents.
Will this be paid parking where they're going to have to pay the city something, or just going to be free parking for the residents?
Not free parking, and it could take one of two forms. The folks who park there could have they call them contract parkers at the parking authority. So those folks could pay a monthly rate directly to the parking authority, or the parking authority could lease the entire space, as it does for other downtown lots, to specific folks for a set price and a set term. And then the leaseholder then may distribute the parking at their leisure. I'm not sure what form this may ultimately take.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's it, Councilor Mendez.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Councilor Castro. Sorry about that. I didn't see a hand.
That's all right. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. I've got the lot up on the GIS map on my iPad. Isn't technology wonderful? And I'm just wondering, I just thought I'd throw this in. Are you going to put lighting in this parking lot? I would want there to be downward lighting. I wouldn't want to walk around, park my car and walk a couple of houses or even a couple of blocks there without some lighting to protect me getting out to the street. I don't know if there are any electrical poles around there to stick a light on, but I think that should be a consideration with a parking lot.
Counselor, if I may, we do light all of our lots, so that would definitely be something that would be included in the cost analysis.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Monahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think they covered most all of it. We've been dealing with this thing for about 6 months now. And ever since the church, the courthouse was sold to the church where these people were parking, they basically have been uncooperative and trying to lease these parking spaces. It was like astronomical what they wanted. And they basically shut them out, causing this issue. And they were using the War Memorial Building for a while, and that got to be an issue. So this was the only option we really had. And luckily, the Housing Authority is giving it back to us, and this should solve an issue. And I think basically the owner of that building will probably lease it and have his tenants parked there. So that's probably the end game of the whole deal there with that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The mystery of faith. Councilor Thompson, I see your hand again. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just one additional question. How many spaces are we expected to derive from this lot?
So what we calculated today was between 10 and 12, depending on the on what we would need for green space. And we would also one of those would have to be a handicap spot.
Great. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right. If there are no further questions, the chair would look favorably upon a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Good.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Monahan. Chair, I make a motion to recommend this matter favorably to the full City Council.
Second.
All right. Motion made and seconded. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilor Lally,
Yes.
Councilor Mendez,
Yes.
Councilor Monahan,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
5 in the affirmative.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everybody who came out for this one, and we'll get to item 2 in just 1 second. I was reminded, I thank you to Councilor Castro. I do need to read out a statement for the meeting regarding, us being on Zoom. This meeting is being held in accordance with Governor Charlie Baker's signed open meeting law order dated March 12th, 2020, which relieves a public body from the requirement of Section 20 of Chapter 30A that it conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure public access to the deliberations of the public body for interested members of the public through adequate alternative means. Now that we've made sure that that's taken care of, Mr. Clerk, item number 2, please.
Ordered that the City Council hereby declare the city-owned parcel identified as parcel ID 118-157 as surplus and available for disposition. This is a parcel of land containing about 4 acres and identified in Book 40707, page 165, and that the mayor be and hereby is authorized to transfer ownership in said parcels to the Eros Realty LLC for the sum of $15,602. The mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate property transfer. Invited were Councilor Bridges, Attorney Bridges, Councilor Castro, and Joe Grata, the CEO of Atlantic Mechanical.
All right, Councilor Castro, this is your order. You have the floor.
Thank you. City Solicitor Bridges brought this to me, and the property next door to it is owned by an importing company. And as part of their doing some renovations and going in front of the planning board for site plan review, it was discussed that part of their parking lot, actually they didn't own, it was city-owned property. They used, the prior owner of the property used to own it, but they lost it in tax title. So the city was trying to negotiate an easement with them so they could park there. And also, I think it had to do with drainage. When Solicitor Bridges called me, and I'll let you take it away from there.
Thank you. And I do just want to apologize to the group because I spoke to Councilor Lally and Castro and said that I would get you some documents on this parcel. I had an emergency motion that was due today at 4. And so that just, that had to take precedent, but I'm happy to give the oral narrative. So essentially there's 2 abutting parcels, 56 Oak Hill Way, and then joining parcel, as the clerk just mentioned, is ID 118-157. Prior to the current owners, which are Eros Limited, Eros Limited Liability Company, was Princeton Limited Liability Company, who owned both parcels. Prior, then Princeton sold to Eros the 56 Oak Hill Way, where there's a manufacturing facility that's currently located. It gave a drainage easement on parcel ID 118-157. Princeton did this to the folks who operate the manufacturing facility. And then about a month later, let 118-157 go in tax title. So essentially the prior owner got everything that they wanted. And then they stopped paying taxes on the adjoining piece, although 56 Oak Hill Way uses a portion of the city's owned land on the abutting parcel for parking. And as the counselor mentioned, there's a stormwater management plan for 56 Oak Hill Way. The drainage maintenance and operation and the basin is on the abutting parcel. So the current owners of the property and the business operator approach the city and want to expand their business. And as part of that, they asked the planning board for a temporary construction easement to do the expansion, and then a permanent easement for some parking and then maintenance of the drainage basin. So in reviewing this matter, as it was sent to the law department, it did not appear appropriate that the easement should issue for $1, based on the history and the city owning this parcel that's 118-157. As Mr. Brophy mentioned, it's about 4 acres. It's not buildable, and it has Concom restrictions. And the city was willing to sell this at a tax auction 2 years ago for $5,000. So the amount that I was able to come up with was the last amount that was due to the city for the taxes in 2010 or 11 was the last time the taxes were paid. Excuse me. And I thought that was a fair valuation based on the size of the parcel and the use. In 2010, the city, the taxes were not paid. They were $12,534.54, 45 cents. Then with interest, it was $15,602.06. From a legal perspective, this transfer is within the bounds of the law. And I would just offer that it can't, nothing else can be done with it. So the fact that these folks are wanting to expand their business, utilize it and get it back on the tax rolls, I think is really sort of the genesis of the conversation. They didn't come to the city asking to buy it. They came to the city asking for an easement, and we're essentially asking them to buy it. And that's the history.
Oh, thank you, Solicitor Bridges. Mr. Grata, if you'd want to say anything, the floor is yours.
Honestly, Town Solicitor Bridges actually did a great job summarizing exactly the history. I mean, we're talking about an expanding business. We're looking at the what is a decent sized amount of construction contained within the lot itself, the 56 Oak Hill Way lot. The easements were there for maintenance and access, and they were a necessary piece of the construction after we met with the planning board. So we made sense after they sort of made the offer in essence to allow Eros to buy it, and then in a sort of a merge use with what they're doing now, so that we wouldn't need the easements. So it makes sense. It's sort of a win-win-win sort of scenario for everybody, where the town now gets to put that back on the tax roll. We no longer need easements, and this business gets to, in sort of the tail end of a pandemic era, be able to expand its operations, and by there I mean increasing sort of overall taxes back to the town. So it just seems like one of those opportunities seems to work for everybody.
All right. Councilors, do you have any questions for any of the guests? Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think during the presentation, it was stated that this lot was unbuildable. And then there's discussion of expanding the business onto the lot. There was also discussion of there being ComCon issues. So the proposed expansion onto this lot, would there be any requirement for variances, or can everything be built on this lot as is?
We're actually, the building itself is not going onto the lot. It's staying on the original lot of 56 Oak Hill. So none of the buildings actually expanded there. The only thing that has utilization of the lot at hand, the one being purchased, is just easement access for maintenance and right of way. So there isn't any building or additional disturbance than just the paved section that already exists in the front of it. So there's no intention for making any plans or variances thereafter.
And part of the city-owned land is paved, and if you look at it, it would look like it's just part of the parking lot for the improved parcel. And so for them to continue using that, it's a good idea for them to own it.
And
All right.
Councilor Thompson, I'm sorry, and I don't know if this is, I'm anticipating one of your concerns or not, but it certainly would be within the council's purview to require, a new owner to join the abutting parcels, and or in the deed restriction, put in a restriction in the deed to make it no more built upon than it is right now.
Yeah, I think you did anticipate. So the question was, will the deed merge here? And in that deed, can we stipulate that there'd be no further building on this parcel other than what currently exists? If we do approve, I would seek for that to be a stipulation here.
I would
Thank you.
suggest that your stipulation states there would be no further improvement of the land, because it's one thing to build a property, it's another thing to further improve it, like with blacktop, you know? So that I think covers you a little better.
Thank you, counsel. I appreciate that.
Counselor Thompson, you have any other questions?
No, that's all for me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Any other counselors? All right, and then the
Mr.
chair.
Chairman, I have a question.
Oh, Counselor Rodriguez, you have the floor.
Yeah, is this the building, I mean, the lot that's currently being used to park buses?
No,
It's parked on them now?
no.
So,
That's a few lots past this one.
because I'm looking at a map right now, and basically, you're looking at the lot across the street from where the buses are parked?
No, this is closer. The lot we're looking at has a little green square in it.
Because one of the concerns that I have down there is the fact that, I mean, we're basically giving away 4 acres of land for $15,000. Are some of these other property owners down there, were they given an opportunity to kind of chip in and use some of these spots that that is being made available to this owner for their own purposes? Attorney Bridges?
So, Counselor Rodriguez, no, sir, they were not, because like I sort of tried to hammer, the applicant and Mr. Grotta's clients were not looking to purchase. What I'm trying to achieve here is that the city get some tax revenue from this parcel that it has not. And that the city tried to sell it for $5,000 2 years ago, and the sale was not successful because of the condition of the lot and the lack of buildability because of the Concom restrictions. So the direct answer to your question is no, but what someone would be able to do with it is unclear. And because of the size, I mean, anything can be sold in this fashion because it was taken in tax title. Because of the size and the history, it seemed most appropriate to treat it like the abutters lot program.
No, because one of the concerns that I have is that we are, the school system is basically looking to purchase school buses and looking for a place to be able to park these buses in the sense. So anytime you see a large patch of land technically just be, given away in the sense when we are possibly going to be looking at renting some space for buses to be parked. That's the concern that I actually have, that if it can't be used for anything else other than parking, why not have something where the school system actually has a say in what happens to a piece so that they can actually utilize it for parking as well, if that could be done.
I myself am not an engineer, but based on my understanding of the drainage issues and the basin that already exists, I didn't realize my camera was off. It does not seem appropriate that buses with their tonnage and turnaround radius I don't think this would be a suitable parking lot for buses. But that is because of what already exists there and the conservation issues.
And with the business owners saying that they're going to expand their business, what exactly are they meaning by expanding their business? Are they going to be able to hire more employees, or are they just expanding the building itself?
I would have to defer to Mr. Grotta on that point. I do not know. I'm sorry.
Sure. And this is where we get approved with our site plan review with the planning board before. We're building an extended refrigerated warehouse that already exists there, so they can continue distribution. So they will be hiring more employees. And that's essentially the lot that exists. It's in the front there would have some utility for them, because I think there's parking for like 5 small cars. It's not a big paved space. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. And then the current lot itself, that the 56 Oak Hill Way, the one that's already owned by Eros, that one there it owns a easement right now for drainage that passes through. So there really is no possible way to add any more blacktop there without your conservation issues as well. So at the moment, it doesn't seem like it has any other applicable purpose other than to sort of better enable and then extinguish the need for easements for the pre-existing business, and then allow it to do the expansion on its already existing lot. And then this way, there may be some parking for the additional employees that doesn't then impede on any of the traffic or road issues that they may have there.
And when you say additional employees, what are we talking about number-wise?
Yeah, I can't comment to the exact amount that they'd be adding for that, but I can tell you that in the overall amount they'd be adding to the facility, it's increasing their overall capacity by, I want to say, around 20 to 30%. So I don't know if that's going to be, I don't run their operations. I can't speak to how much that impacts their overall hiring. But I can say that there's definitely going to be an increased capacity. So there's going to be a need for additional workers.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Councilor Nicastro, I see your hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am personally familiar with the lot of land that we're discussing this afternoon. My father-in-law was the first owner of the factory that's directly across the street. And I was often there at night. Using the printer, work-related work. And I can tell you that most of that land is very wet. It was full of peepers in the spring, ducks, the whole thing. You could see the water in it. It's just wet. I don't think it could be improved for much of anything, much more than what's paved now. And so that's why I was willing to sponsor this, and I support this idea. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, are there any other counselors with any questions? All right, the chair would look favorably on a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve this matter favorably to the full city council with the stipulation that once purchased, this lot will merge with the existing deed of Eros, the lot next to it, and that there also be a restriction for no further improvements on this lot of land.
All right, is there any time relation to that? Sometimes I know that some of these amendments. Mr. Clerk?
Councilman, yeah, is this a motion to amend the order?
Sure, if that's the proper way to have this stipulation attached, then a motion to amend.
Okay.
All right, there's a second.
Councilor Thompson, if you can just email me the what you want the amendment to say, rather than me trying to scribble down what you're saying.
No problem, Mr. Clerk. I will send you an email tomorrow with that language.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as you were previously stating, you said that a time frame for compliance should be added as well?
It has been done in the past. I was inquiring if you planned to add one.
I mean, I think if that's the proper course here, any recommendation in your experience as to what a proper time frame is, I'd be willing to entertain that.
And any counselor can correct me if I'm wrong, but we usually put around 6 months is what I've seen. Councilor Nicastro, is that right? We did that when you were on the committee?
Yes, and you would just ask the owner to forward a copy of the recorded deed to you as proof that it was taken care of.
Okay. Mr. Grata, would you have any problem with that, merging the lots within the first 6 months?
No, that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Then further, for my motion to amend, I would include a time frame of 6 months to provide documentation of a merger of the lots, and on the deed stating no restricting any further improvements than what currently exists on the lot.
All right. There's a second?
Second.
All right. The amendment motion to amend has been made and seconded. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Lally,
Yes.
Councilor Mendez,
Yes.
Councilor Monahan,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
5 favorable on amending the order.
All right. Now, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the amended order favorably to the full city council.
Second.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Lally,
Yes.
Councilor Mendez,
Yes.
Councilor Monahan,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
5 in the affirmative.
All right. Motion passes. All right. Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Mr. Grata.
Thank you.
And thank you, members of the committee. I told Cable we'd be out before 5:45, and looks like we're gonna do it. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, there's a second. All right, all in favor. Oh, sorry, I got rules are rules. Mr. Clark,
Councilor Lally,
yes.
Councilor Mendez,
Yes.
Councilor Monahan,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
All right, it's 5:44, and we're out of here. Thank you, counselors. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and thank you, BCA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone.